Good morning. My name is Joanne Stanton. I grew up in Warminster, Pennsylvania, about 2 miles from two separate military bases that both used AFFF, the foam used by firefighters. My PFAS story started when I was a young mother. About 7 years ago, our community was devastated to find out that our drinking water had been highly contaminated with PFAS for nearly 50 years, with some of the highest levels of PFAS pollution ever detected in public drinking water samples. As you can imagine, as a mother, I started to read everything I could possibly get my hands on about PFAS. And when I began to research the health effects, I learned that some of these chemicals can cross the placenta, and they can affect a developing fetus. Animal studies showed that they cause cancer, tumors, neurodevelopmental problems, and even second-generation health effects. The magnitude of what I was uncovering really hit me like a ton of bricks, and I literally fell to my knees and started crying, because my mind raced back to an earlier time when my son was diagnosed with a cancerous brain tumor at age 6. Back then, after my son's surgery, epidemiologists came into my son's hospital room and began pummeling my husband and I with very pointed questions. Where do you live? Where was your early pregnancy? Have you or your husband ever worked with chemicals or pesticides? They told us at that moment that they found embryonic tissue in the very center of his tumor. That meant that it started to form during my pregnancy. Now, there are 3 of us who grew up together in Warminster on the same street within just a few houses that each had children of our own with brain tumors. All the tumors were cancerous. All the tumors had embryonic tissue in the core. Doctors immediately questioned our environmental exposures, and we realized that we all had drank PFAS-contaminated water throughout our entire childhoods and during our pregnancies. As you can imagine, as a mother, it was gut-wrenching for me to be told that my exposure may have actually caused my child's cancer. But what was truly sickening for me was to learn that both the Department of Defense and the chemical manufacturers had known since the 1970s just how poisonous PFAS are, and they chose to be silent. They chose to watch people in surrounding communities get sick and sometimes die without warning us at all. And then I came to find out that the EPA also knew, since about 1998, just how toxic PFAS are, and they too failed to protect us. In my town, where I grew up, we have 3-year-olds with kidney cancer who may never get a chance to do something as simple as learn how to ride a bike or put the first tooth under their pillow. There are new moms who don't feel they can safely breastfeed their babies due to the high level of PFAS found in their breast milk. And today, the Department of Defense is refusing to clean up legacy pollution across the country. It's been 8 years since we learned about PFAS at our 2 military sites, yet the chemicals are still polluting our public waterways. Within the past couple of years, PFAS groundwater on base has measured over 4,000, has been measured at 4,000 times what the EPA's current health advisory is for drinking water. And discharge levels in the runoff coming off base have far exceeded limits set in temporary discharge permits. No one seems to be able to hold them accountable. How can this be? It's the EPA's job to regulate chemicals, to set safe drinking water standards, and to hold polluters accountable, even when that polluter is the Department of Defense. And it's your job to hold the EPA accountable when the agency fails to act. You all have the power to change the current course of history. You have the power to protect people like me, communities like mine. You have the power to designate PFAS as a hazardous substance under CERCLA, as Chairman Carper has proposed in the PFAS Action Act, which will ensure that PFAS pollution in communities like mine is treated as an urgent priority. You have the power to set a 2-year deadline for a federal drinking water standard for PFAS, as Senator Capito has proposed in the Protect Drinking Water from PFAS Act. That's going to ensure that all communities across the country have safe drinking water. Why should my neighbors in New Jersey have safer drinking water than someone like me who lives in Pennsylvania? You also have the power to set a deadline to clean up PFAS at military installations, precisely what Senator Gillibrand's 50 Filthy and Senator Padilla's Clean Water for Military Families Act would jointly do to help communities like mine. Look, my story is not unique. There are thousands of stories like mine across this country. On a personal note, my son was one of the lucky ones. He survived cancer, but it did not come without a price. As a mother, watching my vibrant, bright child slowly fade into a disabled adult has been one of the hardest things I have ever had to do. Today, he's 30 years old. He still lives at home. He can't drive. He probably won't marry and have children. or experienced many of the joys in life that we had dreamed of for him. I now realize that stronger regulations governing environmental pollutants like PFAS could have prevented needless suffering for me and for so many, many people in my community. It might be too late for my son, but it is not too late for others. Our children, our grandchildren cannot afford to wait another minute. The fact remains that the Department of Defense is one of the largest polluters in this country. And I find it ironic that the very entity whose job it is to protect the American people has given a lot of American people cancer and other diseases. You all have the power to hold both the DOD and the EPA accountable. You have the power to change the way things are and ensure that our children, our grandchildren, and future generations are better protected than we are. As a mother, I implore you to act on PFAS with urgency and action. Thank you.